According to the InterNACHI Home Inspection Standards of Practice, the home inspector shall inspect the heating system using normal operating controls. The inspector shall describe the location of the thermostat for the heating system, the energy source, and the heating method. The inspectors shall report as in need of correction any heating system that didn't operate, or if the heating system was inaccessible.
Right now we're going to start off with section 3.4 of the SOP, which is the heating system. And one of the things that we need to do is identify the controls for the furnace. We got a thermostat here in this hallway on the first floor. I'm going to go ahead and take a photograph of this because I want to know exactly where the original settings were so there isn't any issues or confusion in the future as to if anything happened during the operation of the furnace. So now we're going to move on down and check out the furnace. On this particular home, the heating system is down in the basement. So we're going to start with examining the internal part of the upper chamber of the furnace. I'm going to take a reference photo here of the furnace. Now I'm going to come down and take this cover off the top chamber. Okay, I'm going to take another photograph of just of the internal parts here. I want to see how clean this furnace is, and it's pretty dirty. You probably could use a cleaning. And this is a bit outside of the SOP, but I always take a photograph of the ID tag on the furnace. Primarily I do this for information that I might need on the inspection report. Let's take a look at these flames down here and see what color they are. Again, that's outside of the SOP, but it does give me a heads up as to whether we may have an issue with something else like the heat exchanger in the furnace. I also see on this furnace that we've got a external filtration system. It looks like it used to be a prior electronic system. They don't have it plugged in anymore. We're going to open this up. The first thing I'm noticing now is we've got a lot of vibration with the circulating fan. So I'm probably going to put that in the report. The second thing I've noticed here is there's no filter in this system. So we're going to put that in there as well to get a photograph of that. The bottom end of this furnace I notice is very dirty as well. So I really need to get a professional in here to clean this whole thing out and take a look at the operation of it, because I noticed that the circulating fan is on and I couldn't get it to shut off at the thermostat. So we may have a miswired thermostat or some problems with the control board in here. I'm going to close this back up. Okay, so I'm just going to take another quick look at the internal parts here. I want to see if I got any extra vibration or bearing noise possibly on my induction fan. Everything else looks pretty good so far. We're just going to open up this bottom chamber. I did shut off the service safety switch on the furnace to make sure that everything was de-energized when I get down in the bottom here. But I think we'll go ahead and turn it back on, and then that way when we get it open, we can make sure that the safety switch at the bottom chamber shuts it off. Now we're going to open up this bottom blower chamber to see if the safety switch shuts off the system. And it did. So now that we're down here in the bottom, we're going to take a look to see just how dirty it is down here. And we already know we've got some vibration in the fan, and it is pretty dirty. It could use a cleaning. We'll take another quick look around in here, see if there's anything else. So now what I'm going to look at is to see what efficiency this furnace is. And I can see right away that this is a double wall flue vent pipe. That signifies that this is a standard efficiency furnace. So it's probably going to be in the 80% range. So now I'm going to go ahead and slip this top chamber cover back on. So my next step here on the furnace is to check some of the joints and so forth on the flue pipe and any other holes that I may have coming out of the furnace to see if I have any CO leaks here. This is a carbon monoxide tester, and this is beyond the SOP, but I usually like to do this on my inspections just to check to see if we have any CO or carbon monoxide leaking near the furnace. So I come down here and test around this hole that's exposed because of this refrigerant insulation is not in the correct position. And then I'm just going to go around a few of these joints in the pipe to see if I pick up anything. And while I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and go above the water heater as well. So far, I'm not picking up anything, so I think that portion is okay. I'm also going to do a gas leak detection close by on the gas pipe to the water heater and the furnace. This is what is well out of the SOP, but this is something that I do normally. And so I'll just come down here and just kind of do a little sweep around the joints, the valves, come up towards the furnace, go past the valve here. So I don't think we have any gas leaks or CO leaks near the furnace or the hot water heater.
So one more thing just to point out about the flue here is we have this foil tape on the connections on the flue. This foil tape, particularly this one, is not approved for this use. So that's something that we would point out as being wrong. Also, even if you have a foil tape that is approved for use, most municipalities will not approve it because it hides the quality of the connection here. Two things about foil tape. One, this particular tape is simply not approved for use. One of the clues it's not approved for use is it's loose. The heat from our flue has loosened the glue on the tape and it's loose, so it's not doing any good for us anyway. Secondly, even if you're using a tape that's approved for this use, typically like a 600-degree tape, it still hides the quality of the connection, so we can't see for certain how well they put the pieces together. Remember that on a single wall vent, you're required to have a minimum of 3 sheet metal screws holding that connection together, because you got a fluted connection here where one piece is fluted, the next piece slides over it, and we can barely see our sheet metal screws peeking through the tape here. So we would call this out as a defect, even if it's a minor one, because the tape hides the quality of our connection. And then as our single wall vent goes up to our Y up here, it transitions to B vent, which continues up, and the B vent is double wall vent, which continues on up and out of the house.
The other thing that I noticed on the upper part of this furnace up by the ductwork is the conduit that holds the power cord or the power cable going to the switch is loose and it's not secured. In this case here, it's also riding up against the flue vent, which heats up, and that heat can transfer into and destroy the wire itself. So I'm going to take a picture of that so we can get that in our report.
One more thing that we might make a note of here is we have a lot of air leakage between our plenum here and the evaporator of the air conditioner part here. So not exactly a defect, but sealing this off will improve the efficiency of the system, and that's one of those notes that you might add to a report.
I think we're going to go ahead and check our combustible air vents coming in. We've got 2 of them. One is supposed to terminate a foot within the ceiling, and the other should terminate with a foot within the floor. So we're missing that extension on one of these to get it down within 12 inches of the floor. There's one last thing I'd like to point out on this refrigerant line that's taped to the gas line above the furnace. This is really not a good practice. My concern here would be if these 2 materials, the copper refrigerant line and the black pipe, would actually touch. Potentially the gas line could be grounded to the grounding system, and we could develop some electrolysis there, which could start some corrosion. Okay, so this is the wrap up of the furnace. We're going to go upstairs and we're going to take another photograph of the thermostat, which is going to be our post-operation photograph, and we'll make sure everything's reset the way it was. Well, now that we've got the furnace still running, and before we go back to the original setting on the thermostat, I'm going to check some heat registers to see if we got good airflow and a good heat rise coming out of them. This is a bit out of the SOP, but I use the FLIR camera for this, infrared. So I can easily see that we've got around 91 degree air coming out of here, 92. Kind of varies a little bit. Check this other one. Yeah, this one here is about 86 to 87. The difference could be the distance from the main heat line or the main heat trunk. We also have a return air in this room as well, right here by the door. Okay, we've checked all of our supply heat registers, so now we're going to go back and reset the thermostat to the original setting. So now we're up here at the thermostat. We've already run the system. Now I'm going to take a post photograph of the thermostat, post operation. I can see we've set the thermostat up to get the furnace to come on, so we're going to go back to the original setting. Okay, that concludes our testing of the heat system, and so that will conclude the section 3.4 in the SOP.